I'm just gonna start recording. Okay. Hi, Emilio.
Hello, how are you doing?
I'm good. It's good to see you. So, should we jump straight into it?
Yeah, let's go straight into it.
I'll
Yeah.
give you a bit of an introduction then, I guess. So, Emilio and I met in July, so like 4 months ago now. We were on a writer's residency together in Austin, Texas, as a part of Creator Cabins. And the writer's residency involved us being in a cabin for a month. Wait, that sounds like we were locked in. No, we had land. It was like 23 acres of land. There was 2 cows, 4 people, and maybe an armadillo. But did you see the
Yeah.
armadillo?
I didn't see the armadillo. We had ants though, yeah.
Oh yeah, we got lots of ants. Love those Texas fire ants.
Yeah.
So Emilio's a big fan of Web3, or like at least you're in the space, right?
Yeah, I've um fallen out of the space a bit. I'm not as deep as I once was, but yeah, I really like the technology is really interesting, yeah.
Yeah, and I've also been kind of looking into Web3 for a while now. This is kind of what led both of us to the cabins in Texas because it was like a Web3 organization. It's called a DAO. Do you want to explain a bit about what a DAO is?
Okay, so DAO can be explained like in a multitude of different ways. Like for example, once I heard the definition that DAO is just like a bunch of people with like a shared like wallet. Um like how like do I explain wallet or we are we going to
Oh my
let
God,
Wallet
this
explain?
could be such a rabbit hole. Like, if we
Yeah,
explain wallet, we have to explain crypto. Okay, so crypto is blockchain.
yeah.
No, let's just assume that we're talking to Sophie.
Okay, okay. Well, just like wallet is the crypto equivalent of like a bank account, let's say, right? Like just like
Mm.
in very like general terms. So like a DAO could just be like like some people, like a couple of people or like 4 people that share like this wallet, and they choose what to do with the funds in it. That could be like a really small DAO, and then it can grow to like these massive things like having DAO that which was the one that we went to and participating in, and there's like a bunch of them, and basically DAO, like the acronym is decentralized autonomous organizations. I think at the very beginning they wanted to be like just code and that like making the decision. That doesn't really work because like humans are like subjectivity and stuff. So then it morphed into like a DAO, just being like a Discord, like a Discord server where you can vote and stuff. So it's kind of this weird thing and stuff. But so yeah, so that is just like a bunch of people that came together with like a specific objective, and they have funds to realize that objective. That those funds are either like given by the participants themselves, or sometimes they are even like they sell coins and they get that funds, or someone invests in them. So like there's all these ways to do it. So that's basically kind of it. It could be like a corporation kind of thing, but more fluid because you can like
Mm.
come in and out as you please, kind of. You don't have to like sign a contract and stuff. And mm, when you're a DAO participant, you can either like get paid or not get paid. That's like trickier, but yeah, it's kind of like an way of organizing, and that's relatively new. And because it's relatively new, what it means and how it changes, it's still evolving, right? So that's what I would say, that that's kind of like the general gist of what the DAO is.
The general gist, that's perfect. Yeah, and there's like some quite cool things that they're doing with DAOs. Did you hear about that company who wants to help people vote for like what kind of restaurants are in their local area, right? So,
Mhm.
for example, if um, we can use the technology behind DAOs to vote for what we invest in, so we can chip together all of our funds and then say, all my neighbors in my street, let's just all use this app that's like powered by blockchain technology, and then let's vote for what kind of restaurant we want, and we all really want a Thai restaurant, so then we put this onto the app and we all say this is how much I'm willing to invest in it, and then the restaurant owner of a Thai restaurant in the next street are like, oh wait, they want one on this street as well, so let's come over here and do a restaurant there, and everyone's happy because people who are paying for the Thai restaurant to be open that are also going to be using it. So it becomes almost like a cooperative. But this kind of like brings me on to my first question about DAOs that I wanted to ask you, which is just like, how much of it do you think needs Web3 technology? Because what I just said there, we could just make an app that uses normal currency, normal fiat currency, and just like
Yeah.
vote, right? And then that could link to a bank, or oh my god, not a fucking bank, but could like link to Halifax or NatWest, and then that bank then has an advert on their page to say this place needs a Thai restaurant. Come over, we have the investors.
Yeah, it's a beautiful question. I was what I'm about to say. I was planning to saying it like later in the podcast because it was going to be like really profound and stuff. But since the very beginning, so
Oh my god, no.
let's like
Kill your darlings. Start with the profound stuff, and then we get even more profound.
yeah, that I like that. But so I think that I've read this in Not Boring. That's like a newsletter that it's Patrick. I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but he writes about a
Wait,
lot of
not
stuff.
boring? Do you say it's called Not Boring?
Not Boring, yeah. It's a huge newsletter.
Okay.
It's on Substack and stuff. And they well and the author writes like a lot about like crypto. He writes about some other stuff, but like a lot about crypto. And one thing that he said that really like stuck with me is that like Web3 or crypto or blockchain is not just like a technology, it's a social technology. And what does he mean by that is that like of course we can have like an app like that, it's not powered by blockchain and it's like banks, but we don't really do that, right? But when you're in crypto, even if you replicate the same use case that you could without using like Web3 or blockchain stuff, like your imagination is set free in a way because like there are no like basically you go back to zero, right? Like like everything's new. Like we make the same mistakes that we've done before, but we learn new things. Like when we're voting and where we're doing like decentralized exchanges or something, like we're discovering things that like traditional finance figured out like hundreds of years ago, but we're making the mistakes like incredibly fast, right? Because it's like an like and these iterations like laboratory space. So I think that
So we
like
start
a
with a
lot.
blank slate.
Yeah, so I think like a lot of things that are made with Web3 stuff could be done with regular technological stuff. That's absolutely true. But I think that one of the underrated or not seen aspects of Web3 is that it's a blank state. We go back to the beginning and people are allowed to like imagine these wild new things and they build these wild new things, and sometimes they end up looking at stuff that they could have done anyway, but the key is that they hadn't thought about it or hadn't realized. So I think that Web3 is the social technology in a way that it allows us to imagine new things, like it's a reset and we can imagine new things again. So I think that's
Yeah.
one of the main values of it. Yeah.
But then I feel like that's such a cool value if it was done in the right way, right? Like, how do we know that, first of all, we have the right people in Web3 then? Because right now, the people who are investing in Web3 and who are interested in Web3 are obviously going to be people who have the money to invest in it. So then you've got the people who are, very rich investing in it, and we still have the same problems that we always had because they want to centralize their profits. And then also, I guess there's the issue of like, if you get the same if you have a technology blank slate, how do you know that you have the people who want the best for the world to be there and not just the people who want the money out of it?
That's a really good question.
Wait,
I
those are
think
two questions. So one is, how do you know that it's like how do you know that it's not just going to make rich people richer, and how do you put the right people in the right places that
okay.
don't concentrate on money?
So the first one about people getting richer, it's well in there's different ways to look at it. Like rich people will always get richer because they have so much money. So like for example, if I have like $1 million and I stake it and it gives me 4%, that 4% is just like a lot of money still, right? So like those people like will always, by the definition of having a lot of money, like continue having a lot of money, and they will invest in like Web3 stuff or regular stuff. I don't think there's anything to do about that. However, like of course they will get rich by investing in these things, but the thing that we can control is that they shouldn't have that much power. And what I mean by this is that like most DAOs or projects, like they sell their own tokens, right? So and each token is a vote basically. So this becomes a really capitalistic like awful
Yeah,
system because the people that have the most money have the most votes, right? So that
exactly.
that doesn't feel fair. However, there are two ways but that's not necessarily the way it has to be. That like if the people making the project are incentivized this way, they will do it. But it's like there are like really easy solutions to that. The first one is, well, it's not so easy, but it's called like a human registry. Like some people don't like that because like instead of being like a wallet address, like you basically confirm your human identity, right? But most people don't like that because it comes like in a lot of like personal privacy conflicts. So that's like one way to do it that like a lot of people don't like. So we are going to throw that one away for the while. But the other one that I think it's really good. It's called quadratic voting. That's like I don't understand the specific mechanisms of it, but basically,
Mhm.
if you have more votes, if you have more coins, you don't necessarily have like more votes. Like for example, let's say I have a coin, I have one vote. Like if I have two coins, okay, maybe I have two votes. But if I have three coins, maybe I have like 2.9 votes. And if I have four coins, I have like
Mhm.
3.5.
So
So
it starts getting incrementally smaller each
yeah,
time.
so you can buy like a ton of coins, but then you like 100 new coins will equal to
Mm,
like one more vote. So
yeah.
you still get like a lot of it, like some of it, but it's like more, it's like ponder, right? Like you cannot buy your way into like making the decisions. So you can still benefit of like buying more coins, but the benefit gets increasingly like marginal. So I think that's
Yeah,
like
yeah,
a
yeah.
and that's
But
like
I
really
mean,
easy to implement. Yeah.
but don't you think that the problem still applies that it's the people who are in these spaces? So the people who are in these spaces at the moment are going to be the people who either have the time to, look into this technology that might come into fruition or might not. And they're also the people who have, like, I guess, the security of a good enough job on the side so that they can look at somewhere else at the future. So, because I don't feel like the forefront of crypto of web3 is to improve people's lives. I think that's like a fluffy marketing thing
Mm.
that we say to say like, oh, web3 is going to change the world. Like every fucking technology that comes out, they're like, yeah, it's going to revolutionize the industry. But like, is it really? And like I've yet to see that happen. So like even as you say these like incremental, like these smaller changes, even if that's the case, like it's still the people that are there. There's like hundreds of millions of people who are going to be using this technology who aren't included in that process at all in the beginning.
Yeah. It's I think it's a tough question because we could get like really philosophical because you could say like how do we get the
Let's
right
do
people like
it.
in politics and stuff, you know? So that's like getting the
I would
right
love to go down
people.
that direction.
Yeah. So the way that I see it at least is that at least in Web3 and crypto, I think like there are like we have like polar opposites in a sense because we have the worst of the worst, like people that outright like scam people, like TikTokers saying like, "Oh yeah, buy
Hmm.
this coin," and they then dump it, like pump and
Like
dump.
rug
So
pulls.
that's so we have absolutely the worst people that that just like
Mm.
scam people, but also like, and I don't know the percentage. I think like comparatively, like the good people, the in percentage wise is like relatively low, but I think there are some people that actually like lucre like in every space, right? But I think it's particularly true in like Web3 crypto blockchain because the origins, if you go like to the first like the beginning, the like the manifesto, the like the reason of like crypto like and blockchain existing, it was actually like an ideological thing to make the world a better place. Like at least that was the idea for a lot of people. Like you have Bitcoin and the
Wait,
idea
hang
was
on. But didn't they say the same thing about capitalism?
how so? Yeah, I don't know.
Because I think with like every new revolution, that's exactly what it is, right? People are like, oh, this thing is gonna like make things so much better. And like at the end of it, the core of human nature, it goes down to greed because of the culture that we've already created and we haven't gotten rid of. So then there's like an argument against even Bitcoin that it's like plutocratic, which I think means, I think it's called plutocratic when it's like the richer you are, the richer you get because the system that you're in is already rigged this way.
Okay. So what I would say about that is that just like for example, and I was actually thinking about this the like yesterday because we were going to have this talk, is that let's say that you have like this red button, right? And you're like a politician and you have this red button. And if you like push it, like you will gain like you will take $1 out of like all the accounts of your country. Like no one will like might notice or like sense, right? So
Uh-huh.
you could like there are two ways to solve that problem. Like you could like make a system or a selection thing that only allows like the most pure of heart to go to that decision. So even though there's like this huge red big button, like the person won't push it, right? But I think that the fact is that the button still exists. It's still possible. Like people might not do it, but it's still like the system is set up in such a way that
Mm.
it is still possible for someone to push the button and steal the money, right? That's like that's how the system works. Like it might not because game theory and incentives for the human
Mm.
persons involved, but that's still something that can happen because it inherently can because of the way the system is created. However, if you change the system, like and you change it so there's no red button, it doesn't really matter. Like you can have like a pure person or like a person that would have wanted to push the red button, but they can't because it doesn't exist, right? So I think like as you say, like all revolutions and all new things are like obviously have the best intentions in heart. I think maybe some other technology has helped this way, but I think what's really interesting about crypto and blockchain is that the technology inherently limits what you can do in some ways. And I think that's really marvelous in the sense that, let's say that I want to send you money via Bitcoin, right? Like, no one can stop that. Like, there's no.
But I mean, they can though still, right?
mm,
Because
in what way? Like, if I want to send you, if you I have your address, I can send you money and like nothing can stop it.
okay, so who decides that? Okay, I think this is something that I've been really interested in finding out more about because I heard somewhere that blockchain is decentralized in technology, but not decentralized in control. Have you heard of this?
Not exactly by those words, but yeah, yeah, I get the gist of it.
And would
Yeah.
you agree?
Um, it depends because it's let's like it, I think you made like a good analogy because like if we think of Web3 as like capitalism, like within capitalism there's like some really good companies and some really bad
Mm,
companies. So I think it goes like to the specific project like you're talking about. Like for example, let's say um if you're using it, and it's really interesting because like a lot of Web3 stuff still runs on like Web2 stuff. Like if I want to
yeah, yeah,
go
yeah.
to like exchange coins, I still use like a regular browser, right? So if like the browser like and you still use like IPs and stuff like so if someone
Mm,
censored like the crap, I forgot the name,
the
like
IDs.
the domain, right? The domain, if
Oh
someone
yeah,
censored
yeah.
the domain, that's like completely centralized, then you cannot change your coins anymore, right? So like there's definitely an aspect of that because if we are still using domains to access this stuff and the domain is still something that can be taken away by law by the company, like so you could say like are we really like
Yeah,
free
you'd
to
have to
like
like
what's the point, right?
you'd have to like use a new internet then, right? Because like
Yeah.
let's say Google Chrome or just the internet provider that you use could like completely cut that
Yeah.
off. Is that what Elon Musk is doing with Starlink?
I think he's just like he gives internet service. He's not making a new internet stuff. He just like gives you. He's just like
Yeah,
a
but isn't it so that like because his internet services are like out of space, it means that people are unable to control like governments are unable to control what's in and what's out because they can't go to space and like cut it off.
okay. Like your access to the internet maybe, but the contents of your internet, like, no, because they live in servers
Mm.
here on Earth. So like what we think the internet is just like in some place somewhere there are like these huge servers that have all the information in the internet basically. So like those are still up like for regulation and legislation and confiscation, like all these things, right? So yeah, and I think like, but let's if we continue the example, for example, if you want to like go to a decentralized exchange and do something like, once if the domain is up, you could say like, yeah, there's nothing stopping you from swapping your coins, right? Like there's like it cannot happen because the technology inherently like gives you that option, right?
Hmm.
But for example, if you go to Bitcoin, like you don't need a web browser to like change things. You run the software, so you could say that yes, you need a computer and you need an operating system. That's true. But if you download the software from a web page, so you could say like there are points of like you could say of interaction with a system that you're not in controlling, but like those um, touch points should be like as few as possible, let's say. So once I go to the page and download my Bitcoin node, like I don't have to interact with it again, and then I can send you money without anyone like intervene. And I think that's a really really powerful concept, because I actually entered like Web3 because of Bitcoin, and I think like people well, for me it's amazing because people like really don't get what Bitcoin, and they say like all the price and stuff, but like
Like there's so
it
much
just
more to it than just the gambling
yeah
aspect,
yeah
right?
yeah because you can speculate. Like for example, if you speculate on the price of Bitcoin, it's no different that if you speculate on the price of a stock, right?
Yeah,
So
for
it's
sure.
no different. But I think that what's really interesting is what you can actually do with Bitcoin, and I think it's for me it's still an experiment, right? It's we're going to see if it plays out, but I think it has cataclysmic implications, because the same way we fought wars to remove religion from state, right? We are having this kind of war to remove state and money, because and it's really interesting because like since always the money has been issued by the state, and what gives
Mm.
it validity is the state. So if we actually end up removing money from the state, it's going to be like no, something that has never happened in human
It's gonna
history. So
be
I think
pure
it has
chaos,
spread.
right? I mean, this is like as I think I started my journey into Web3 being like, oh my god, amazing! Like, the sovereign individual, like we'll have so much autonomy. The government can't tell us shit, and like nobody fucking trusts the government anymore. Like, I can't remember the last person I've spoken to that was like, yeah, no, I really like the British government. Like, literally, like, oh my god, for so many years, every single conversation I've had with young people have been like, no, the government is trash. The government is shit. Like, not even young people, I guess older people as well. But then like we really start thinking about it. So then the government fucking has no power. We stop paying the taxes. NHS dissolves. If I break my arm, where the fuck do I go? Like Bitcoin, doctors, anywhere? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, what do you think that process is going to look like? And how do we stop, say, criminals if we don't ID? Do you see what I mean? Like, there's just so many issues that comes with not having a government because of cryptocurrency.
Yeah, but I think that's definitely a way that it can play out. But I don't think like removing money from state means that the state goes away, right? Like
Well, I mean, that's
let's
how we fund it, right? Like, we
sorry.
stop paying our taxes.
Well, that would be a really interesting experiment, because
Wait, but isn't
like
that what's happening?
happening where, for example.
I just mean like the transition from people using fiat currencies into using, say, if everyone just started using Bitcoin in England and we don't need to go through the government, then we can just keep our money and transfer it between each other. The government can't control shit.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. That's what would happen. So the interesting thing would be that, like, for example, when you pay taxes, it's mandatory, and they like if I have a bank account, they can freeze it, right? Because they can take like, oh, you
Exactly.
didn't pay taxes. So that's
Mhm.
and I don't think that's ideal because like of course the government will keep running, but I think that's like coercion, right? There's like I'm going to take your money no matter what. So you could say like how free am I, how
I mean,
independent, how
how would they
sovereign.
take your money if you had Bitcoin?
No, like I'm talking like about the regular bank accounts, right?
Oh, okay.
Yeah. If they freeze my account stuff, if I had Bitcoin, like they cannot do that, right? So say that they cannot take they cannot take a cut about it, just because they want to. However, I think that people would still pay taxes, and you could say like, oh, that's naive because I think it would be certainly like a self regulating period, but I think like if the government can't take your money forcefully away, you have to willingly pay taxes, right? So
Like a charity.
kinda you could say like I'm going to pay this because I want like my streets to like have payment and I want light. So
But
and
then it's game theory again, right?
it's game theory again, but I think that would be I think it's scary. It would be destabilizing for sure, but I think it's worth it because like it would be certainly like a rough period, but at the end of the day, I think we would go into more peaceful agreement because it would say like I give you this for
Mm.
kind of voluntarily, right? So and I think
But
that
then,
that has better implications. So I don't think the state would
mm,
go away just because Bitcoin exists. I think our relationship with the state would actually improve if Bitcoin was like used universally, for example. Yeah.
wait, why would it improve? Because the government starts having to respect us.
Yeah, because we have more bargaining power. Yeah, it's just like if you screw
Mm.
up, I'm not going to give you taxes anymore. It's
Yeah.
actually like a whole like yeah, we
I
have
think it would be
more power
cool.
for it. Yeah.
Yeah, it would be cool to see a world where we use the technology where, like the example that I gave of having the Thai restaurant on the street that we voted
Mm.
for, except we have the government, is the people who's making those decisions. And we have an app where we have, our money that we put into like the street lamp. Like I'll pay £5, everyone pays £5 for this street lamp. Or something like this. That would be cool, no?
That would be really cool. Like for example, and it would be rusting wonderful because like I don't know how it works in the UK, but here in Mexico, like well, it's famous, right, that we have a lot of corruption in our government. So like you pay taxes,
Dude, I
but
got held at gunpoint in Mexico. Yeah, like I understand the corruption.
yeah. So
Like
it's
paid the fucking police
that's never
off.
happened to me. So I don't know to which places you went to, but yeah.
It was in like
Well,
Chiapas, on my way to Chiapas.
okay, you took okay, dicey,
Yeah,
dicey,
you
but
kind of
yeah,
deserved
I
it.
get it, I get it. But like for example, for me it's really been interesting because you also have like this like I don't know nation pride or something. But for example, how much many taxes would it actually need like for me for like
Mm,
all the citizens
yeah.
here to pay for the public lights to like work, right? Like maybe that we wouldn't need that much money, but you would say like, oh, but you like want like healthcare and stuff, so I would be like,
Mm,
okay, that's interesting. But I think that if we gave willingly the money, we would see like, okay, maybe all the fluff and all like the cuts that the politicians take,
yeah.
they got out, and we could pay like let's say half the taxes, and everything would function essentially the same, right?
I
And
love this, yeah.
also what I this is beautiful because you have like Bitcoin there in the wallets, right? And it's like public, everyone can see it. You can see the transactions of all the coins. So you can basically say like this coin was
Yeah,
here. So
the
if you deposit
transparency.
the coins to like the government address, you can see like this coin was used for this project of construction and this healthcare, like and you can see like, oh, this coin went to here. That's suspicious, right? So you could actually see like how your money flows, and you could say like, oh, the 1 Bitcoin I gave ended up being like
Mm.
for built for a school, right? So I think that's like a really transparent way of seeing how the flow of money works. So I think I actually really like love Bitcoin. I think the world would be a better place if we use Bitcoin. I know there are challenges. I don't
Mm.
think that it's perfect or anything, but I think it would be so much better than what we currently have, I think. Yeah.
But I mean, even if that happens, because that whole argument of I don't want to donate my money or I don't want to pay my taxes because I don't know where it goes. Like, no, people will just start, trusting each other more.
Yeah, and I think that's what's beautiful about this technology because it's I I really like this that each technology like evokes like a certain ethos, like each the way
Yeah,
each
it's got their own little
yeah
personalities, right?
each technology has its own philosophy and way of
Yeah, yeah,
looking at the world, right? So like when you have blockchain, it's like inherently like you don't have to trust, you verify, right? So you can say like all
yeah.
those people, like you can actually see where your money like went. So you can like donate peacefully, or you can pay your taxes peacefully because you
Mm.
know where it went. So yeah, I think that's really cool, and I think it would have like positive implications. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. But then I guess, I mean, I'm trying really hard to like skip past this question, but I feel
Mhm.
like it's just causing more problems than anything else because do you think the government will ever let us have this, currency? And how would we implement it without a whole fucking revolution?
Well, I think that's the funny aspect of it because I think that technology has a little bit to go still. Talking about like
Mm.
Bitcoin wise, because like the underlying fundamentals are rock solid. They work. They are like beautiful. They don't really function as day to day like transactions because they are like a little bit more expensive that we would like, and they are like slow. Like if I want to pay something at the shop and it takes 10 minutes to pay, that's going to be like awkward, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
so that's not really functional. The way it's been solved currently is that there's something called layer 2. That's basically
Mm.
it's a new technology that's built on top of Bitcoin, and that makes it really easy. Like I can change a Bitcoin in 1 second, and the fees for it are really really small. So that's the way that we could actually like exchange money in like a regular real world capacity. I that Lightning is like obviously newer than the Bitcoin, so I don't think I think it has progressed rapidly, but I'm not sure. The last time I read it about like I read about it, there were some like technical hurdles to overcome. So, but that's like but let's say that there are like two aspects of like Bitcoin becoming a reality, like the technical aspect, right? Like okay, Bitcoin works, and Lightning is fairly confident that it could work right now. Okay, great. We have the technological aspect like down. We don't have to worry about this. But then it comes the social aspect. But I think what's weird and wonderful is that the social aspect sometimes is harder than the technical,
Of course it is.
but at
Because
the same
humans are
time,
fucking complicated.
yeah, it's harder than the technical, but at the same time, there's no fundamental thing stopping it from happening, right?
Apart
Because
from like human nature, which is pretty big.
well, but like yeah, but for example, if you want to make like I don't know, like a smaller chip processor, you run into the laws of physics, and like you simply cannot do
Yeah,
anything,
yeah, yeah.
right? But with human nature, it's malleable. We can change it. So I think
No, but that's the
we have a
problem
like
because but like now we're talking about like indoctrination and shit. Like this is
well,
kind of but like this has been the problem since the beginning of time. We could just have a society that runs logically as we have now without crypto, without Web3, if everyone was more logical or if everyone was more empathetic or whatever the next person says that everyone should be. But like everyone's gonna always disagree.
that's absolutely true. However, I think that the I think it would be interesting because implementing Bitcoin, it would be like as you say, like it would be like this huge social
Yeah.
coordination thing
How the
that's
fuck
going
do
to
we
be
do
really
that?
difficult. But once we have it implemented, I think like
But
people don't have to be
how do we even start implementing it? Sorry, no,
well.
you were gonna say something. Oh my
No,
god.
like just saying like once we have actually like implemented Bitcoin, I think like you don't have to you don't have
Rely.
to rely on people being like empathetic and stuff like
Yeah,
obviously to a
yeah,
certain degree, but there are like safer like um rail guards to prevent that like
yeah.
bad stuff from happening. So how would we actually implement Bitcoin? This
But
is such
then, wait, hang on. I'm not even sure if I agree with that because wouldn't there just be like an underground economy where like, people who can't do crime anymore because everyone is transparent now, they'll just like trade fucking, I don't know, like notebooks or like guitar picks or just something, that we didn't think about before. And then that could be their own value to like murder people.
like yeah, that could like totally happen, but I don't think that takes away from the fact that the technology would be like better, and there's so that could that
But do you
happen?
see
Yes,
how
but
it doesn't even solve the problem? Because like
but
there's
like
always going to be a way that someone could, do crime.
like yeah, of course there's always gonna be a way that someone can do like harm and bad stuff, but I think that in the way that it gets like reduced, or like it happens less often or is less intense, I think that's the win. And I think that
Would it
like if
though?
we I would think so, because like for example, let's say um I don't know, like, but like what you say that even if we had Bitcoin as like a payment system, all these like bad things would continue to happen. That's kind of what you were saying, right? That's kind of the
Mm,
idea that we were communicating. And
yeah,
I would say like of course like
because they would use
Bitcoin
like a different.
yeah, but Bitcoin won't like solve like everything and all the problems in the world. Like some people believe that, but it won't. But it will. I think it will. It does. I have to say, like it will improve. Like okay, let's do this. Like what like a specific use case that you think that won't improve if Bitcoin exists, and I will think of if I agree with you or not. You know, like
I mean, I can't even think of one where it would improve. So let's just take that. Yeah,
okay,
because I think it's so you're taking the system, you're changing it to a different system that's more transparent. But even when it's transparent, there's still ways that people could be untransparent.
but I, I mean, yes, but I don't like. I agree with what you said, but I don't see the like what would
Okay,
be
so
the.
let's take like I don't know, uh selling guns or something.
Hmm,
Um and assuming that we think selling guns is a bad thing. I think selling guns is a bad thing. Do you think selling guns is a bad thing? I mean,
I
maybe
agree
like
with you.
it's
Yeah,
scary. It's scary
yeah,
because
yeah,
like maybe we're coming to a stage where we need guns, but like because it's already some people has it, and if we don't have it, then we need to protect our blah, 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 that. So let's say selling guns. If selling stuff and trading was shifted from fiat currencies into Bitcoin, then I wouldn't be able to sell anyone a gun because then there's like a record of that, right?
yeah. Yes. Well, yes and no, because there's ways that you can like anonymize your transactions. So it could actually be possible that you still use Bitcoin, but you.
But okay,
So like you, for example, if there's ways to do it, like you can split, like there are some places that like for example a lot of people like send their transactions to a place and they scramble them and they go to like
yeah,
different places, so you cannot really track where that money went. So it's still possible for you to use Bitcoin like anonymously, kind of, yeah.
okay. Then like, how does that mean that the government will be more transparent?
Because like if you like, well, they could actually like they could they do that? Yes, of course they could, but I think that's but they wouldn't have like any reason to, and if they did that, it would be really fishy, right? So I don't know, like, so if you could say like I send you this money, but you scramble it, and I don't know where it went, would be like, then I'm not going to give you money anymore unless you show me where it goes, right? So that's kind of the thing, like you can, you know,
Okay,
so that's the kind of
okay.
the power play, yeah,
Oh, I see. No, that makes sense because this is still assuming that we have the power to send the money to the
Mhm.
individual.
Yeah,
Okay. And then they can't just be like, whoops, I lost this money somewhere else.
yeah, exactly.
Okay. Yeah, no, that sounds really cool. Is there any, like, could you think of your top reason for making the change to Bitcoin or any cryptocurrency?
Okay, the main argument, one is that there would be like no inflation, and like just like a quick like clarification, like people think that rising prices mean inflation. That's not the case. Like for example, if there's a high demand for something, the price of that thing will increase, but that's
Mm,
not inflation. Inflation is when we print more money into the system, and each
mhm,
individual like unit of it is less valuable, right? And I think that might be an exaggeration, but I actually believe this, that a lot of the problems we currently face are because inflation. And you'd say like, oh please, how?
No, I agree.
Because like for example, in just like a 50 years ago, like you could have a family and one of the parents could work, and that would be enough to raise like a whole family, right? Today that's not really a possibility. And what's the reason? because the work the people do are like we're more productive now than we were before, and
Yeah.
percentage wise we get paid less. What's going on? And I think it's because like for me, like inflation is it's legalized theft in the way that
Yeah.
the wages like never raise like proportionally
Yeah.
to inflation, never do, because it's a complex adaptive system, right? Like it's like it won't go like perfectly in sync. So like eventually you get people that are get paid less and less
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
less and
Yeah.
less, and well, and then that pushes you to do things that are not good for your community, right? Like you're more stressed, like the so you require more like healthcare. Like if you can be pushed to
Mm.
like violent acts because like you don't have enough money to survive, etc., etc. So I think like a lot of the like, and if you earn like very little money, you have little bargaining power with like employers or corporations that want to hire you because there is like a little bit or money to it or nothing at all, right? So it becomes this
Hmm.
dystopian thing. So I think if we didn't have like inflation, it it would solve so many of our
God,
problems,
yes. Yeah.
so many. So I
Dude,
think
when
if
I first like found out that inflation was a thing and like the government could just print more money, I fully didn't believe it. I was like, surely that's like, what's the fucking point? Like they should be in jail.
Absolutely, it's wild. So yeah, I think like no joke. If inflation didn't exist, the
Mm.
world would be like a better,
I
happier,
totally
healthier,
agree.
peaceful way.
Yeah. But
So
also, I think, yeah, on top of like, just to add on to what you said about how people are more productive nowadays, I think the whatever it is, the power of the media, whatever, they sold feminism and like making women go into work and all that kind of stuff without selling also that men can just like stay home and like, be the house husband. So then now we've got like twice the amount of workers that we normally do. And maybe the ideal world. I mean, when we think of feminism, we think, oh, women have the option, but like, where's men's options? Like, there's still so much social stigma for men to stay home, right? So it's like, damn, we just double the workforce, hype up inflation, and like, we're fucking rolling in it.
yeah, yeah, we have all the workforce and none of the parents. It sucks.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
no,
I totally agree with you. So that's one of the things I would say that if we implemented Bitcoin, there would be like no inflation, and I think that would be like wonderful. So that's one. Like the censorship resistant abilities of Bitcoin, like the government cannot take it, so you have to willingly give it to them, and that changes everything. The whole dynamic changes, right? Because they actually like need you and stuff. They have to like you could say like if someone is making a bad job, like okay, I'm not going to give you money. So it's actually like this play, right? So I think it would be like again, it would change the way we operate. So inflation, the resistant, like being censorship resistant, and I think that if Bitcoin was like a global currency. That's like getting more into the economic aspect. But if we don't have, for me, it's always been weird that we have like currency, like the exchange things, because like for example, I can go to Argentina and because I know like I earn in Mexican pesos, I can be like rich over there, right? And if you go with like a pound, like you could be like the richest person,
I mean,
and
not right
and
now, maybe, but
well, but you would still be really rich in Argentina, and I'm like, I don't get it. Like,
of
milk is still milk, like in Argentina and in Mexico and in UK. Like,
course.
why do like because these weird political economic
I
things?
mean,
It's like a
Argentina's,
glitch in the system. I really
yeah.
don't like it. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I mean the whole way that FTX like got their initial start is because they found that Bitcoin costed like what was it, 10 million for one Bitcoin in America and $11 million in
Mm.
Japan. So then they just started fucking trading that and like profiting off £1 million each, $1 million each time. But like, yeah, that's how like currency exchanges. So then the question is like, why aren't we fucking living in Argentina? Right?
Yeah. Well. Yeah. I think it would be like a cultural change. Like there.
Exactly.
Yeah. Like
And I
there's
think
like. Yeah.
I was gonna say there's also like a clout associated that like this social currency, and if it's like, oh yeah, like, oh, I'm from the UK. When I tell someone from China that I'm actually like British, they're like, whoa, sorry, didn't know that. They're like proper impressed, and I'm like, I didn't do anything to get here, and like none of these English people, they didn't like work in the womb to make sure that like hope and pray that I'm in England. Like we just fucking ended up here, you
Yeah.
know. So it's like, yeah,
Yeah.
definitely like the social clout of it is so strong that nobody fucking talks about. But I think there is like, you know, kind of the remote workers now that are working out in Bali and they're paying way less money for their rent and having a much better kind of lifestyle than they would do for the same amount of money in the UK. So there's that aspect to it as
Yeah,
well.
yeah. There's like, of course, within the system we have, there's ways to like make this difference to your favor. Unless you're like in Argentina or something, you can. There's every place that you go, every it's going to be more expensive. So that really sucks, you know.
Yeah,
So
I've got a friend in Argentina at the moment. She's just traveling there from the UK, and like she has to carry around a whole fucking wad of cash, and like by the end of the day, it's like worth less than what it was at the fucking beginning of the day. It's like what Germany went through during like, you know, their hyperinflation period after the First
yeah,
World
no,
War.
no, it's really bad. So that wouldn't happen if we didn't have inflation, right? So that we would like kill two birds
Mm,
without one stone. So like no inflation, censorship, resistance, money, and like we wouldn't have these weird exchange things, and we could change money to any place in the world. So I think that's really powerful because we have things that kind of work that way, like maybe with PayPal or something, but Bitcoin would be just like a better version of it. So maybe like
mm.
if there's like a disaster in Mali or something, like everywhere in the world with just like one tap away can
Yeah,
send
fuck.
money.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
would be
But
really
then
cool, bro.
I guess the question at the end of it is like, how do we trust that the person that we're sending it to is putting it into the right place? So, like,
Oh,
say, just
hmm.
taking the Mali example, because, you know, normally you could probably have audits and like make sure that the system is, you know, socially acceptable as well as technologically acceptable. But like, yeah, Mali.
Yeah. Well, that's I think that would be the limit of what Bitcoin could do because like
Bingo.
you know
Our
because
first
like there.
limit.
Yeah, because there are some people that say like Bitcoin will solve all the problems, and I'm like, no, like it can be like certainly useful. Like we can get all the money to this specific place, right? And that's
Mm,
not possible before. Like now we have a new problem: is how do we know that the place we send it to is trustworthy? At the end of the
mm-hmm.
day, we're still going to have to trust our fellow humans, but this technology allows us to trust each other in a more like complete and wholesome way, I would think. So it doesn't solve like all the social coordination problems, but I think having this type of money that's no inflation everywhere in the world, people cannot censor the transactions. I think that's the first step. Like that would be like huge, right? We would still
Yeah,
have
that'd be
all the
fucking
problems
crazy.
that money cannot solve, right? But we would have like this huge, like beautiful version of money that actually like makes us better human beings. So I think that would
Yeah,
be
I
really nice.
totally agree. And I think like without the current system of money, people will stop competing with each other and start asking themselves like, what do I enjoy? Because like my parents are first generation immigrants. If I asked my dad like, what do you enjoy doing? He literally wouldn't be able to tell me because his whole life hasn't been about enjoyment. We were having a conversation the other day about his childhood, and because like I'm living at home at the moment, I've just spent a year traveling, and he was like, you should spend less time out of home. I'm in the house like 7 days a week. Literally, I go out once maybe. You know, most of the time I'm like starting my job search again, so I'm like doing stuff on my laptop. And he's like, "Yeah, you shouldn't go out anymore." And I'm like, "Dad, like, what do you mean?" And he said, "When I was younger, when I was your age, I spent time with my friends, and then now I look back and like that wasn't productive." So then. Do you see what I mean? So like his value system is in productivity. Like, oh, I don't want
Mm.
friends because they're not productive. They're not going to make me money. So money is
Yeah.
still at the center of that. But like if yeah, and he has to fight harder because being an immigrant moving into a different country where the currency is worth more, you don't have a lot to bring there. So, you know, your quality of life, you have to really work a lot harder in order to get it onto the same level. Whereas if he was just born with the same opportunities as everyone else, maybe he'd learn to enjoy himself a little bit more.
Yeah, yeah, and I think and as you said, like okay, so I think we're almost at the top of the hour, so I'm not going to go too deep into
Let's
this,
do
but
it. No, 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 let's do it. Let's do it. And then let's just like fucking stop and say, you know, if we want to do another episode, we'll do another episode. But like, I just want to go as deep as possible. I don't think there's any point in like holding back.
okay, nice. So I think that what you're talking to, it's like the way I see it, at least we are moving fully from like Web3 and Bitcoin stuff, because I think that what
Mm,
you said is really keen of like having like a universal basic income. Like that's an idea that gets
Dude.
thrown a lot. And I
But that's
think
the thing, like, I don't think
yeah,
anyone can ask, like, is Web3 good or bad without being like, is humanity like working at, like, no, is the way that the system is built working at the moment?
yeah. So I think like actually I haven't thought about this before, but the way the future, because okay, we see a lot of like media and books and movies, and almost all of them are dystopias, right? Like we have the Hunger
Oh my
Games
god,
and we have
shit.
Elysium, and all like when we think about the
1984.
future, we like cyberpunk, like we always think about like
Yeah, yeah,
the future, and it's just like a horrible place, right? So
yeah,
it's just like
yeah.
awful. And I was like really frustrated because like people say like, oh, capitalism is bad, and I'm like, okay, like propose something that will actually help, because like people they say like it's
Yeah,
bad.
fuck.
I know it's bad. Like how do we change it? And the one of the things that actually thought like, okay, like this actually is um like a sound proposal. Like of course it's going to be difficult to implement, but it's actually like a future we can aspire to. Is like first the
Basic
universal
income.
basic income, but also like I don't know if you've heard about solar punk. Have you heard
Yeah,
about it?
I
Yeah.
follow the group on Facebook.
Yeah, okay.
I've been in this like Facebook group for 6 years. I can't remember what it is, but I know what it
Okay,
is.
nice. So, like for example, if we aspire to this like solar punk future that is like more integrated, like nature
Mm,
and technology, and it's like, and again, it's just like changing the way we socially organize, because the technology is already there. Like, and we would just have to think and act different. So I think if we lived in a world where
yeah.
we have like food security, right? Like you know that you would have like enough to eat and you have a place to live, and if you have like, those like basic necessities down, then you can start like, okay, what do I enjoy? What am I good at? How can I
But
contribute? And that would be like a beautiful utopia kind of place, Yeah.
but I mean, like, to be honest, I think we could do that now because I
Yeah.
know people who have, earned their money, they live off grid, and I could have done that. I could have put my money away, fucking invested it in something, or like, do you know what I mean? Like, work 10 years of our life, have that plan, and then just buy a fucking farm somewhere. But the reason I don't do it is because, like, there's not enough, like, social clout behind it, like, the reputation and stuff behind it.
Mm,
And, like, being young, you just want to impress other people. And, like, I think it takes a long time for anyone to even begin being like, oh, what actually makes me happy?
mm,
Um, like realistically, I don't know how many people are going to say like, oh yeah, I don't mind having less than other people. I don't mind, having the
mm.
equal the same amount to other people, because that's not the way that we were fucking socialized growing up. So how long is it going to take for us to be unsocialized?
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. But also, I think that what would make it different is like, of course, like a person can go off the grid and live their lives that way. But I think that the beauty of solar punk is that it's like the community aspect is like you change your
Mm,
city, your neighborhood, right? So it's just like everyone is kind of like going to the same vibe shift, like everyone's getting more into these ideas. And what I really love about solarpunk is that they actually give like concrete like action plans. Like for example, they say like, okay, like propose having like a communal garden in your neighborhood, right? Like instead of just having like a lawn with grass,
mm,
just like plant stuff in it. And you can say to your neighbors, okay, if you let me plant this in your patch of grass, I will like, you won't have to like tend for it. I will take care of it. But and then if you imagine you do that in a whole street, let's say, then you will have enough food to feed the community for a month, let's say. And that's
mm.
actually like a really
That's fucking
important like good
huge.
thing. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I think that there are like actually like practical ways for you to scale up, and it's not like an individual thing, it's like a community thing. And I think that's really cool. So I think that would like mitigate kind of the fears of not like having more
That's
or
so
less,
true.
because it's like something that we embark together, right, in this new journey. People are up for it. Yeah.
I love that, and I think that kind of it also touches on the importance of community. I think like the two things that people need to be like a quote unquote good person who, isn't greedy, who doesn't like take more than their share, is just community and purpose, right? Like you have a sense of purpose, you have a sense of community. Like what else do we really want from life?
Yeah, yeah,
I
that's
don't
true.
think I know anyone who has like purpose and community and is still like, oh my god, I need something else. Or like
Yeah.
a community that they're happy with and a purpose that they're happy with at least.
That's a really good point. Yeah, I can't think of anything. Yeah, that's a really good point.
Because then that like brings us to fucking self-actualization, right?
Yeah, yeah, and I think, and there are some people that are like naturally ambitious and they want to like build stuff and get more, and
Mm.
I think that's perfectly fine
But
as
then
long as like,
we can build horizontally.
yeah, we can build horizontally, and like people that want to have like, I don't know, like two houses, that's fine. Like they can have two houses. Like if everyone else already has a house, that's cool. You can have two houses, right? That's I don't that's cool.
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
think that we can both like coexist. That's nice. I think the only problem with the current system is that like there are people with 10
Mm.
houses and people that with none, right? That's like the weird thing
Yeah, for
about it.
sure.
So if we all had food and water and a house, and someone said like, I want 10 houses, like sure, go for it. It's going to be like a nice game for you to play. Yeah, that go for it. Yeah, no problem. So, yeah, I
Okay,
don't know.
Jimmy, you can build them yourself.
Yeah, exactly. Like, yeah, go for it. Like, it's no problem, right? So, yeah, I don't know.
Mm. Yeah, I think that brings us nicely and like kind of wraps it up.
Yeah.
So, okay, to conclude, what are the I think like all our pros of crypto are like pretty solid. You know, it's a way to be more transparent against the government. It's a way where we can vote for what we want. So then businesses are able to know their target audience more, and it's a way of kind of reinventing the whole wheel, right? It's breaking the wheel,
Mhm.
reinventing the system. How we're gonna get there could be an idea for a next episode.
That would be a really good idea. Yeah.
Right? Okay.
Yeah.
So then, but what about on the other side, the cons of crypto? There's still limitations. Like we aren't sure if someone straight away who says, "Hey, I'll collect the funds for this effort to build houses in this deprived neighborhood." How do we know to trust that person? And I think that's like the social aspect, which always exists. Probably still better than fiat currencies, but there's always still limitations to crypto.
Yeah.
Um, should we do another episode?
Yeah. Of course, we can talk about
Let's do
all the
it.
things like the no, like the negative aspects and the limitations. We can talk about those. Yeah.
Love that. Amazing. Yeah, I would love to talk about the implementation as well.
Oh, yeah. Implementation. That's going to be like a
That's gonna be
really
a big
interesting,
one.
tricky one. Yeah. Yeah. That's going to
Yeah.
be. Oof,
And
yeah.
like also how to reduce the negative impact and like make sure that it's only being used for the good. And if there's any way that that could be built into the system. Because when we hear about Web3 stuff in the web at the moment, in the Web2 at the moment, it's all just like negative. It's just like
Yeah.
shit's yeah, like Web3 is going great. What's that lady called? Is it Molly White? Yeah, the blog about how Web3 is just not fucking doing great and isn't needed. But
Yeah.
anyway, thank
It's been
you.
a rough while for Web3, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's that like technological adoption curve as well, isn't it? Where it's like you go up a little bit and then you go up a lot, sorry, and then you go down a lot, and then you go up a little bit more, and then it
Mhm.
just like evens out. Because it's like, so when you go up, it's like the excitement, it's like, oh my God, this could change the world. And then it drops, crashes down when like the bubble bursts and people are like, how the fuck would this actually change the world? And then it goes up a little bit more when people are like, oh wait, no, this could actually be used here. And then when it normalizes, it's like, okay, cool, let's start building. And that's when we start getting productive. I think we're at the bottom of that now. So
Yeah.
like learning how to kind of ride that wave up might be a good place. Do you want to work in crypto?
Um, I don't think so. No.
Yeah, just
I would actually love to help implement Bitcoin as a system. Yes, but
yeah.
like actually like work in like a crypto thing. I mean, I would get a lot of money. That's for sure. But I don't know if I would like that. I don't know.
What would you want to work in?
Um, well, maybe if I did like some technical stuff like smart contracts or like code, that could be interesting. But that's like
Mm,
agnostic for like the purpose of the company, right? So that would have to the company would have to be like one of the good ones, right? Because if not,
mm.
that would suck. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I love that. Well, definitely a lot more to talk about in our next episode.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna stop recording in 3, 2.